Hi there. In this lesson, we'll focus on past perfect tense. Here, you will learn about its sentence formation, regular and irregular verbs used in its different forms, contractions, how to give short answers, when to use this tense, different adverbs used in it, a number of examples and practice exercises. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to use this tense easily. Let's begin. Past perfect tense is one of the four forms of the past tense. It talks about the past of the past. It is used for the actions that started and finished in the past before another action started, which also occurred in the past. Its sentence formation is subject plus had plus past participle or third form of the verb. Example is he had seen. Here seen is the third form of verb see. As you know, different forms of verbs are regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs are those which follow a fixed pattern of ed endings, whereas irregular verbs are those which don't have any fixed pattern. They don't follow any rule. We have to learn them as they are. Past participles of some regular and irregular verbs are given here. For example, walk, walked, end, ended, close, closed, be, been, break, broken, choose, chosen, go, went, etc. Look at the formation of some sentences in past perfect tense. Here, different subjects are given, then auxiliary verb had and the main verb started or done, where started is a regular verb and done is an irregular verb. Now, different sentences can be I had started, she had done, you had started, we had started, or they had done. Here, you can see that auxiliary verb had is used with all the subjects and any of the main verb can be used here. Look at the timeline given here. There are two events happening in the past. The film started at 8:30 p.m. We arrived at 8:45 p.m. The event which started earlier is the first one. We'll write the earlier event in the past perfect form. The other event is written in the simple past tense. So, in one sentence, we can write, the film had started before we arrived, or before we arrived, the film had started. Among different forms of this tense, first is affirmative. Its sentences are like this: I had worked, he, she or it had worked, we, you or they had worked. In its negative form, not is added and sentences are like this: I had not worked, she had not worked, they had not worked. And in its interrogative form, had is put in the first place and sentences are: had I worked, had he worked, had we worked, and so on. In its negative interrogative form, not is added to the interrogative form and the questions are: had she not worked, hadn't they worked? In information questions, a question word is added before the interrogative form. For example, where had he worked? How had he worked? When had he worked? Etc. Contractions are squeezed form of two words. Two words are put together and one or two letters of a word are replaced by an apostrophe. In this tense, contractions are used both in affirmative as well as negative sentences. In affirmative sentences, I had walked is contracted to I'd walked. Here, I and had are put together and HA of had is replaced by an apostrophe. Other examples are you'd walked, she'd walked, we'd walked, they'd walked. In negative contractions, two different methods can be used. In first method, had and not are contracted into hadn't. In second method, I and had are contracted into I'd. Now, different sentences can be you hadn't walked or you'd not walked. She hadn't walked or she'd not walked. We hadn't walked or we'd not walked. They hadn't walked or they'd not walked. Now, let's see how to give short answers in past perfect tense. While answering yes-no questions, we don't simply say yes or no, neither do we use the full sentence of the question in the answer. If the question is, had she finished her homework? Answer is, yes, she had or no, she hadn't. And if the question is, had they informed the guest? Answer is, yes, they had or no, they hadn't. Here, contractions can only be used in the negative answers. Now, let's see when to use this tense. First is in actions completed before a certain moment in the past. Example is, at 18 years, she had learned to fly the glider. Here, at 18 years is a certain moment in the past and the completed action is learned to fly the glider, which is given in the past perfect tense. Another example is, at 5 p.m., the match had ended. Its second use is, in the actions in the past completed before another action in the past. In such sentences, there are two actions. The action that takes place first is expressed in past perfect form and the other action is expressed in simple past tense. Here is an example. John had gone out when I arrived in the office. Here, John had gone out happened first and it is expressed in past perfect form. Other examples are, I had saved my document before the computer crashed. When they arrived, we had already finished cooking. Here also, cooking is finished before they arrived. That's why we had already finished cooking is expressed in past perfect tense. Next example is, he was very tired because he had not slept well. Its next use is to express unfulfilled desires of the past. Example is, I wish I had worked harder for my exams. Here, I had worked harder is an unfulfilled desire and it is expressed in past perfect form. The words had worked shows the tense. Another example is, I wish I had paid attention to the advice of my elders. Its next use is to give conditions of the past. In such sentences, some condition is expressed in past perfect tense. For example, if he had left earlier, he would have reached the airport in time. Your condition is if he had left earlier. Another example is, if you had been regular, you would have performed better. Adverbs like really, already, etc. are used in this tense, and its sentence formation becomes had plus adverb plus past participle. Examples are had just finished, had really tried, had already eaten. Its full sentence is like this: when she arrived at the station, the train had already left. Now, let's do some practice exercises. I'll discuss some parts of these and you will have to complete the remaining parts. You can check the answers in the description box below. Exercise 1. Change the verb in the brackets into past perfect form. As you know, past perfect form is had plus past participle of the verb. Let's do the second part. He said that he see the latest movie. We have to change see, and past perfect form of see is had seen. So, the sentence will be like this: he said that he had seen the latest movie. Last part. When they arrived at the party, everybody already leave. Here, already is an adverb, and adverb comes between had and the past participle form of the verb. So, past participle of leave is left, and the sentence becomes when they arrived at the party, everybody had already left. Exercise 2. Here, two actions are given in each part. One of the actions happened earlier. We have to put these two actions in a single sentence using past perfect tense. First sentence, the train left earlier. I arrived at the station. Here, the first action which happened earlier is the train left, and we'll use past perfect tense in this part. The sentence will be like this: the train had left before I arrived at the station. Number 4. She moved out earlier. I found her notes. Here, using past perfect tense in the first part, the sentence is, after she had moved out, I found her notes. That's all for today. We'll meet soon with the next lesson on tenses. You can watch previous videos of this series by the links given below in the description box. Thanks for joining me. Subscribe if you haven't done yet. Keep watching. Bye.